Hi, my name is Heather Roy, and I will be discussing how multicultural education and culturally relevant pedagogy can be used to increase student interest in social studies. The typical classroom has changed dramatically throughout the recent years. It was once considered normal to have 15 or so children with very few ethnic differences. There was not much diversity within a single classroom, and each student came from similar backgrounds. Presently, in today's typical classroom, class sizes vary between 15 to 30 students, ethnicities vary across many continents, and backgrounds differ immensely. Due to the complexity of such a classroom, teachers now maintain a greater amount of responsibility. It will be up to the teacher to act as the facilitator to guide his students to the level of success that the grade level standard demands. Therefore, as suggested in the article, Equity Pedagogy, an essential component of multicultural education, teachers are required to understand how students perceive social interactions with their teachers, what they learn from them, and the extent to which students perceive their teachers as caring persons. This is significant because students learn best through personal and relatable experiences. The only way to present the content in a relatable way to the students is by understanding the background from which they come. The teacher needs to be knowledgeable of the students' backgrounds in order to help them reach their full potential. In order to properly prepare and scaffold students to reach their full potential, the teacher must understand what multicultural education and culturally relevant pedagogy refers to. According to Wilson, multicultural education relates to education and instruction designed for cultures of several different races in an educational system. This approach to teaching and learning is based upon consensus building, respect, and fostering cultural pluralism within racial societies. Multicultural education acknowledges and incorporates positive racial idiosyncrasies into classroom atmospheres. James and Sherry Banks define it this way: equity pedagogy is teaching strategies in classroom environments that help students from diverse racial, ethnic, and cultural groups attain the knowledge, skills, and attitudes needed to function effectively within and help create and perpetuate a just, humane, and democratic society. What can be determined from both definitions is that it is important to incorporate multicultural education within the classroom because this is how each student is going to reach success. Each student walks into the classroom with different backgrounds and different needs and therefore needs to be accommodated as such. Multicultural education provides each student opportunities to incorporate their prior knowledge and to use their schemas to help themselves relate to the current topic being discussed. Now, I know that all this sounds like an impressive theory, but how can this be implemented into the classroom, especially pertaining to social studies? Well, to start, teachers need to incorporate multicultural lessons into the curriculum. It is important for students to recognize that each person's history is important. Each historical person helps tell the story of history, and each story needs to be told, much similar to students within the classroom. Lessons pertaining to Native Americans and other ethnic groups will be beneficial for all learners. Other lessons that could be incorporated include games that are original to specific cultures. Fazan, for example, is a traditional Romanian game that involves words and vocabulary. It also involves movement and thinking on your feet. Using such games can excite the students and allow them to learn using different mediums of information. Multicultural education is an approach to teaching that is vastly growing. A great resource to use would be a site called teacherspayteachers.com. It is a resource that other teachers across the United States upload lesson plans to, so that others do not have to constantly recreate lessons. These lessons are constantly updated and revised for maximum performance. Seeing as multicultural education is somewhat of a new concept, it may be difficult to incorporate a vast amount of lessons that vary in diversity. However, once multicultural education becomes familiar and easy to implement, the teacher can go from being the one to teach the students to the students teaching each other. Eventually, the students within the classroom will be able to help model to other students the various differences of cultures and events within those cultures. It is important to emphasize that there is no set culture that dominates the advancement of history. Instead, history acknowledges various different types of people ranging from different ethnicities as well as different stages in life and backgrounds. Ultimately, those who would consider themselves diverse or not diverse can learn through one another's perspective and establish a welcoming to all environment. Incorporating multicultural education helps to scaffold each student to eventually become lifelong learners that will then teach others around them about the content they learn here. In this day and age, resources are practically endless when trying to incorporate multiculturalism into the classroom. A good resource to incorporate into the classroom is the use of literature, such as books and stories. Using books and stories helps students create personal connections to scenarios that they may or may not be familiar with. Ariana states in her research paper that books and stories can be used to begin an acceptance and understanding of different races, ethnicities, and cultures. Stories such as One Green Apple, written by Bunting, tells a story about a young girl moving to a different country where she does not know anyone and does not even understand the language. This story follows Farah's journey to teach about diversity, a topic that will be relatable to any student who has recently moved from another country. Another story that could be beneficial to introduce to the class is Coming to America, the story of immigration, written by Maestro. This story is a succinct history of U.S. immigration for students of all levels. Beautiful watercolor illustrations captures the emotion of the successive ways of immigrants looking for a better life. It is books like these and many others that will help students learn through different experiences, as well as engage the students in opportunities to relate with the characters. Other possible stories that could be introduced is the series written by Dooley, which include Everybody Cooks Rice, Everybody Bakes Bread, Everybody Brings Noodles, and Everybody Serves Soup. Each of these stories explains an element of life that could be found in various countries. It models for the students that each culture may have their own techniques and methods to do specific tasks, but within those cultures there are still similarities that tie them together. Literature comes in all forms. As for teachers, it will be their responsibility to incorporate as many different types of literature within each subject. Using primary and secondary sources gives the students personal experiences with the history that they are studying. This will help the students to visualize the time period that is being discussed. Having real person accounts allows the students to understand not just the facts and events, but the emotions that were faced during these time periods. Another strategy that could be interesting for students is incorporating games, either online or board. These games allow the students to move around and learn about various events in a fun, competitive way. It is important to promote and establish a multicultural classroom environment. As previously stated, students walk into the classroom with different interests, needs, and accommodations to be met. With this, teachers must establish an environment that is welcoming, engaging, and diverse. Having this type of environment established will meet the needs of all students, and it will further the knowledge and understanding of each student within the classroom. Students and their life histories and experiences should be placed at the center of the teaching and learning process, and that pedagogy should occur in a context that is familiar to students and that addresses multiple ways of thinking. Using various types of literature along with personal experiences from students can help each student reach their full potential. Using multicultural education to accomplish this task will teach the student to not only reach their full potential, but to help their peers do the same. Eventually, the hope is that over time the cycle will continue, and each student that walks through those classroom doors will leave as a lifelong learner.